L. Lee Tyus Jr., former Black General Mills employee in St. Paul, Minnesota, is suing the company after he was fired for objecting to flyers that were placed in the break room. What was in the break room? How bad was it? Well, the flyers in the break room, were about Black atrocities in America during Black History Month. The flyers were labeled as, quote, fun facts about Black history in red, black, and green, which are the colors of the Pan-African flag. Tyus filed the lawsuit on June 27th for racial discrimination and retaliation against the company. Am I going to have to stop eating certain cereals? We'll see. We'll see. Flyers in the break room referenced events like the Tulsa massacre, Tyus said. The flyers struck him as tone deaf and dehumanizing, prompting him to file the lawsuit. Tyus also asked if similar tragedies involving white people would ever be presented as, quote, fun. I doubt it, but for those who do need a reminder of the Tulsa massacre, this 100-plus-year-old mass murder, here you go.
On June 1st, 1921, 9-year-old Eldoris McCondichie was awakened by her mother. What her mother said next, she never forgot.
She says, we have to go out, get out. She says, the white people are killing the colored people.
Eldoris grew up in the Greenwood area of Tulsa, a buoyant, bustling community of some 10,000 African Americans. There were schools, churches, stores, theaters, and a hospital.
It was a place where, for African Americans, the American dream was working.
The residents of Greenwood try to defend their neighborhood, but they don't have a chance. The National Guard sprays the residents with machine gun fire, and it gets worse.
You have something new up in the air, and its airplanes start flying over Greenwood. There is evidence, and I believe this firmly, that at least on one of the airplanes, a co-pilot is dropping sticks of dynamite down on Greenwood.
Greenwood is left a smoldering ruin. 9,000 people left homeless. The dead uncounted. Estimates range from 75 to 300.
From prosperity to murder to ruins, mass graves. Is that a fun fact? Apparently for someone it is. The attack on Black Wall Street, for instance, was one of the deadliest acts of racial violence in U.S. history. More than 100 years ago, white mob attacked the prosperous Black neighborhood of Greenwood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, killing an estimated 100 to 300 Black residents, destroying more than 1,000 homes, leveling dozens of Black-owned businesses. And these prosperous Blacks who were living the American dream at the time actually paid their premiums too. And then insurance companies, many who live in some form today, refused to pay them their claims, calling it a riot instead of mass murder. Tyus, who is Black, said he found the flyers deeply painful and offensive and questioned whether horrors and abuses against white Americans would be posted and shared in the same way. Tyus claims he was told flyers with horror stories about white people would just be labeled American tragedies instead of, quote, fun facts. Tyus' lawsuit argues that his termination wasn't because of policy violations, but instead was pushback from a Black employee raising concerns in a white-dominated corporate company. His performance reviews were deemed as on track just a few weeks before he was put on leave. He must have fell off. Must have stopped doing his job, I guess.
All of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden. Tyus submitted a formal complaint through the company's internal ethics platform. On that same day, he was placed on involuntary leave and told to submit medical documentation if he wanted to return. After learning he was being placed on an involuntary leave, Tyus Jr. responded that he was being retaliated against for my beliefs and isn't being allowed back to work, which feels like an injustice, the complaint states. When his leave ended, Tyus discovered his building access had been deactivated. With his supervisor's approval, Tyus created a document listing the employee relations lead's contact information and placed copies on the same break room tables where the original flyers had appeared. Less than a month later, March 19th, he was escorted out of the building and fired. General Mills cited, quote, multiple violations of General Mills standards of conduct and policies, according to the lawsuit. Now, the lawsuit filed by Storms Dwark LLC claims General Mills violated the Minnesota Human Rights Act by retaliating against Tyus for reporting racially offensive materials. It seems at least $50,000 in damages for each of the 3 counts, along with attorney's fees and civil fine. General Mills has declined to comment on the specifics of the case, but issued a brief statement through multiple outlets, quote, while we do not comment on pending litigation, here we go commenting. I can share that General Mills does not tolerate discrimination or retaliation, unless we do. I added that last part because I think it's warranted, unless and until we do. Jackson, none of this surprises me, right? Company A claims that they are interested in diversity, don't discriminate, workplace free of harassment. And then the minute you step through the threshold and you take your badge and go boop, you clock in boop because they know what time you come in, all hell breaks loose and they do all of it. They do every bit of it. And this is not a unique story, unfortunately. It's not unique. What did you take from it?
Well, I mean, it just seems like a silly reason to fire somebody. Like at the end of the day, you could just change it from fun fact to fact or something like that and just been like,
Wow.
oh, okay, you know what?
Just take
Like
out
how
fun.
like how it would have made you look, like you got some empathy, or at least like, it would have made you
Teaching.
look pretty good if you're like, well, you know what? Actually, you're right. Let's change that up. It's a good quality and a good trait to have when you can acknowledge not even maybe that you're wrong, but that I made a mistake. I made an error in judgment. You got to baby steps up into admitting that you're wrong. But I mean, yeah, it's not surprising, but also again, just a very petty thing to fire somebody about.
It's true. They turned it into a teachable moment. Take out one word, FUN, and
Right.
now they've
That's
got
all
a
you got to
problem.
do.
Right. Take out FUN. And now it appears that they're squared off and only the N is missing. And somebody's going to get, someone's going to prevail and someone's going to get, well, fill in the gap.